One man, no army, no plan, just a calling he was born into and a nature he never learned to control. What you're about to watch is the complete story of Samson. 3 chapters, 1 arc. The rise, the war, and the fall. Stay until the end. The last 3 minutes are the ones that don't leave you. He had no sword, no spear, no weapon of any kind, just his hands, and whatever God had put inside of them. The lion never saw it coming. Neither did he. This is the story of a man who could tear a lion apart with his bare hands, and still couldn't escape the trap a woman built for him.
Samson.
A man chosen before he took his first breath, who burned his own life down before he ever understood why. This is Samson, and before this is over, you're going to see yourself in him. Think about Steve for a second. 27 years old, gifted, smart, built for something bigger than where he's standing. But the environment he's in, completely against him. Wrong city, wrong crowd, wrong pressure. He's not failing because he's weak. He's failing because the system around him was designed to keep him down. Now take that feeling and multiply it across an entire nation. That's Israel. For 40 years, the Philistines owned them, not conquered them, owned them, controlled their economy, their weapons, their movement. Israel wasn't in a war. They were in a cage, and they had stopped expecting anyone to open it. And nobody was coming. Nobody was organizing a resistance. Nobody was drawing up a plan. They had settled into their chains so long the chains felt like clothing. But God doesn't wait for systems to change. He doesn't send armies when he can send a baby. He was already working. In a house nobody noticed. Through a woman nobody remembered. With a plan that looked like a love story and ended in fire. But here's what's interesting. God didn't raise up a general. He didn't send a prophet with a battle plan. He didn't organize the 12 tribes. He sent a baby, a very specific baby, to a very specific woman, with a very specific contract. And it starts here. Her name isn't in the record. The Bible doesn't give it to us. She is only Manoah's wife. But God knew her name. He showed up to her, not to her husband, not to the priest, not to the elders, to her. And the angel of the Lord stood in front of her and said, "You are barren and have not had children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. No razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb. And he shall begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines." 3 rules. That's the entire contract. No wine, no alcohol, from birth. No razor to the head, ever. No contact with anything dead or unclean. 3 rules. 3 lines standing between this child and the fullness of what God placed inside him. You already see where this is going. The boy was born. They named him Samson. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir. Not slowly, not like a tide coming in, more like a fire that finally found oxygen. He grew, and whatever was inside him grew louder. But here's what nobody tells you about being chosen. Being chosen doesn't protect you from yourself. The anointing covers the calling. It doesn't cover the character. Samson's greatest enemy was never a Philistine soldier. It was the part of him that always reached for exactly what he wasn't supposed to touch. And it surfaces, for the first time, on a road to Timnah. Samson goes to Timnah, Philistine territory, enemy soil. And there, he sees a woman, a Philistine woman. And he doesn't ask questions. He goes home and tells his father, "Get her for me. I want her as my wife."
Samson, what has happened?
His father's face falls. There is not one woman among all our people, not one, that you would choose. You have to go to the uncircumcised Philistines. Samson doesn't argue. He doesn't explain himself. He says one thing. She is right in my eyes. Get her for me. His parents didn't know. They couldn't see what he couldn't see. But the Bible pulls back the curtain for us. This was from the Lord. He was seeking an opportunity against the Philistines. God was setting up a collision. And Samson, with all his power, was just the instrument. The dangerous thing about being used by God is that you can be inside his plan and completely outside his wisdom at the same time. On the road to Timnah, something happens. Something Samson will keep secret for years. Something that tells him, for the first time, exactly what he's capable of. He's walking alone. No weapon, no companion. The vineyards stretch out on both sides. Quiet. And then, without warning, a young lion comes out roaring. Full charge. No time to run. No time to think. And the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, powerfully, like something tore open from the inside. Samson grabbed the lion with his bare hands and tore it apart, the way you tear a young goat. He had no weapon. He didn't need one. And then, you know what he did? He told no one. Not his father, not his mother. He just kept walking to Timnah like nothing happened. He looked at his hands and didn't recognize them. The strength was real, but he didn't put it there. It had been placed inside him, and whatever had just happened was only a preview. Weeks pass. He goes back for the wedding, and on the road, he turns aside to where the carcass is, and inside the dead lion, something that stops him cold, a swarm of bees and honey. He scoops it out, eats it walking, brings some to his parents, doesn't tell them where it came from, but he stores it in the back of his mind, because Samson, for all his raw strength, had a poet's heart and a gambler's instinct, and he just got an idea. He's walking into a 7-day wedding feast. 30 Philistine men assigned to him as companions, not his friends, more like handlers. 30 men whose job is to make sure an Israelite doesn't cause a scene on Philistine turf. And Samson, still carrying the honey, still carrying the secret, is about to make a bet they cannot win unless someone cheats. Day 1. He looks across at 30 men who'd rather be anywhere else. And he says, "Let me tell you a riddle. If you explain it within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you cannot, then you shall give them to me." They take the bet. And then he leans in and says 7 words. 7 words that shut the room down. Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. They had nothing. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. Day 3, day 4, day 5. 6 days of silence. And now the 30 men are desperate. 30 sets of linen is real money, real shame. And they are not about to lose to an Israelite. Not like this. On day 4, they make a decision. They don't go to Samson. They can't beat Samson. But there's someone else at this table. Someone Samson trusts. Someone Samson opened his home and his heart to. and they walk toward her, because they've decided if they can't crack the riddle, they'll crack the man who holds it. What they say to her is not a request. Entice your husband to tell us the riddle, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire. Did you invite us here to impoverish us? That's not persuasion. That's a threat. She's trapped between a husband she wants to keep and 30 men who will burn her family alive. So she does the only thing she knows how to do. She weeps every single day for 7 days. You hate me. You don't love me. You told your riddle to my people, but won't tell me. Day after day after day, until on the last day, he breaks. He tells her. She tells them. Before sunset, they have the answer. Before the sun went down on day 7, 30 Philistine men walked up to Samson, smiling. What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? Samson looks at them, and he knows. He knows exactly how they got there, and what comes out of his mouth isn't grief. It isn't rage, not yet. It's a single sentence that hits like a knife. If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle. He called his wife a heifer at his own wedding, in front of everyone, not because the hurt wasn't real, but because it was. Then the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 of their men, took their garments, walked back, dropped them in front of the 30 without a word, then turned around and walked away in burning anger back to his father's house. He left his wife behind at the feast with the people who threatened her in a city that was never his. And back in Timnah, her father gave her to another man because he thought Samson was never coming back. He was wrong. He still had no idea what Samson was about to do to all of them. Chapter 2. He came back for her. What he found instead started a war no one in Israel was ready for. Samson came back for his wife, but at the doorway, he learned she had been given to another man. The door closed, and something in Samson opened. Not grief, not forgiveness, rage. And one man walking back to what he thought was still his. But when he arrived in Timnah, he found out something had happened while he was gone. Something humiliating, something irreversible, something that turned a broken wedding into a national disaster. Because this time, Samson doesn't tear apart a lion. He tears open a war. This is episode 2, The Fire in the Fields. And before this is over, Samson will burn Philistine grain, strike down his enemies, be betrayed by his own people, kill 1,000 men with the jawbone of a donkey, and still end up crying out to God for water. Some time passes, the anger cools, or at least Samson thinks it does, and he returns to Timnah. Not with an army, not with a sword, not with a threat. He comes with a young goat. That matters, because in that world, this is not just food. This is a gesture, a peace offering, a husband returning to his wife, a man trying to walk back into the room he stormed out of. He says, "I will go in to my wife in the chamber," but her father stands in the doorway, and he does not let him in. Imagine that moment. Samson standing outside the house, gift in his hands, dust on his feet. The man who tore a lion apart, stopped by a closed door. Then her father says the words that light the fuse. "I really thought you hated her, so I gave her to your companion, not to a stranger, not to some distant man, to one of the 30, One of the men from the feast, one of the men connected to the riddle, the betrayal, the humiliation. And Samson realizes they didn't just take the answer, they took the woman too. The father knows this is bad. He knows Samson is dangerous, so he tries to fix it the only way he knows how. He says, "Is not her younger sister more beautiful than she? Please, take her instead." And that sentence tells you everything about how little they understood Samson. They thought the wound was simple. Replace one woman with another. Replace one bride with another bride. Replace one insult with a bargain. But Samson's problem was never just romance. It was shame. It was betrayal. It was the feeling that everyone in Philistine territory could touch his life, move his future, use his weakness, and then smile like nothing happened. And that is the dangerous thing about Samson. He does not always know how to process pain. He only knows how to turn it into force. So he says, "This time I shall be innocent in regard to the Philistines when I do them harm." That is not forgiveness. That is a warning. And the father standing in the doorway still has no idea what he just awakened. Now watch how strange this gets. Samson does not march into a city. He does not challenge their soldiers. He does not go after the 30 men first. He goes after what the Philistines trust most, their harvest. The Bible says Samson went and caught 300 foxes, or jackals, small wild animals common to the land, fast, frightened, hard to control, and he takes them 2 by 2, ties their tails together, places a torch between each pair, then lights the torches, and suddenly the fields begin to move. Fire runs through the standing grain. Fire tears through the stacked grain. Fire spreads into the olive orchards, the vineyards, the work of an entire season. This is not random destruction. This is economic warfare. The Philistines controlled Israel's weapons, their movement, their dignity. But now Samson touches the thing that controls them, their food, their wealth, their future. And from a distance, Samson watches the smoke rise. One man, no army, no battle plan, just a wound, a flame, and enough strength to make a nation afraid. Fire always asks a question. Who did this? And the Philistines get their answer. Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he took his wife and gave her to his companion. Now listen carefully. They know why Samson did it. They know the father's decision caused this. They know the wedding betrayal started this. But they still do what violent systems always do. They punish the vulnerable. They go to the woman. The same woman they threatened in episode 1. The same woman they said they would burn if she did not betray Samson. And now they do exactly what they promised. They burn her and her father with fire. The woman who betrayed Samson to save her family loses her family anyway. That is the cruelty of fear. It promises survival, then it collects everything. And when Samson hears what they have done, something in him goes cold. Samson said, "If this is what you do, I swear I will be avenged on you, and after that I will quit." Do you hear that? Even now, Samson thinks revenge has an ending. One more strike, one more act, one more payment, then I'll stop. But revenge is never satisfied. It always says, just one more. And Samson attacks. The Bible says he struck them hip and thigh with a great blow. It is a brutal phrase, a total defeat, a violent breaking of the men responsible. No speeches, no negotiations, no courtroom, just Samson moving through Philistine men like judgment with skin on. And then he leaves. He goes down and stays in the cleft of the rock of Atum, a cave, a hiding place,
A crack in the stone. The strongest man in Israel is now alone in a hole in the earth. And that is where the next betrayal finds him. The Philistines do not let this go. They come up and camp in Judah. Their soldiers spread out across Lehi, and the men of Judah ask the obvious question, "Why have you come up against us?" And the Philistines answer, "We have come to bind Samson, to do to him as he did to us." Now this is the moment Israel should wake up. This is the moment they should say, "Samson is fighting the people who oppressed us for 40 years. Maybe God is doing something." But oppressed people do not always recognize deliverance. Sometimes they are more afraid of freedom than chains. So 3,000 men of Judah go down to the cleft of the rock of Etam, not to join Samson, to arrest him. They say, "Do you not know that the Philistines rule over us? What then is this that you have done to us? Not to them, to us." That is what slavery does to the soul. It makes the oppressed defend the comfort of their oppression. And Samson looks at his own people and realizes they are more afraid of Philistine anger than they are hungry for freedom. Samson answers them simply, "As they did to me, so have I done to them." But Judah does not want context. Judah wants quiet. Judah wants the Philistines gone. Judah wants the problem handed over. So they say, "We have come down to bind you, that we may give you into the hands of the Philistines." And Samson makes one request. "Swear to me that you will not attack me yourselves," because he knows what he can do. If his own brothers strike him, he may not stop. So they bind him with 2 new ropes. New ropes, strong ropes, fresh ropes that have never been weakened. And they lead him up from the rock. Picture it. Samson walking bound, Judah surrounding him, Philistines waiting in the distance, the deliverer being delivered by his own people into enemy hands. And the tragedy is not that Samson is tied up. The tragedy is that Israel helped tie the ropes. When Samson comes to Lehi, the Philistines shout. They think it is over. They think Judah has handed them the problem gift-wrapped. But then, the Spirit of the Lord rushes upon him, and the ropes on his arms become like flax touched by fire. They melt off his hands. Samson looks down. No sword, no spear, no army. Again, just his hands. And then he sees it. A fresh jawbone of a donkey. Not a polished weapon. Not something forged in a furnace. Something lying on the ground. Ordinary, unclean, almost insulting. But in Samson's hands, ordinary things become terrifying. He grabs the jawbone, and then he strikes. One man against a crowd, dust rising, men shouting, bodies falling, the battlefield collapsing into panic. And by the time it is over, 1,000 Philistine men are dead. Then Samson speaks like a poet again. With the jawbone of a donkey, heaps upon heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey, I have struck down 1,000 men. And he throws the jawbone away. That place gets a name, Ramath Lehi, the hill of the jawbone. But victory has a way of revealing what strength cannot fix. Because after killing 1,000 men, Samson is thirsty, not symbolically, literally. The strongest man in the Bible is standing in a field of victory, dying for water. And for the first time in this episode, Samson does not talk to Philistines. He does not talk to Judah. He does not talk to a woman. He talks to God. He cries out, "You have granted this great salvation by the hand of your servant. And shall I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" Do you hear the tension? He knows God gave the victory, but he still fears dying empty. And God splits open the hollow place at Lehi. Water comes out. Samson drinks. His spirit returns. He revives. So he names it En-Hakore, the spring of the one who called. Not the spring of the strong man, not the spring of the warrior, not the spring of the lion killer, the spring of the one who called. And Samson judged Israel in the days of the Philistines for 20 years. But do not mistake survival for surrender. Samson has learned he can break ropes, burn fields, defeat armies, call on God and live. But he has not learned how to rule himself. And soon, the strongest man in Israel will walk into Gaza at night and prove that sometimes the gates you carry away are still not the gates you need God to break. Chapter 3. 20 years of war. One woman. And the question he couldn't stop answering. Then he walked into the valley of Sorek, and he met Delilah. Judges 16 doesn't call her a prostitute. It doesn't call her a spy. It just says he loved her. That's the most terrifying part. The Philistine lords came to her, 5 of them, each carrying 1,100 pieces of silver. That's 5,500 silver pieces. More money than most people in that era would see in a lifetime. For one question, find out where his great strength comes from. Entice him. Find out how we can overpower him. And she said yes. She didn't hesitate. She didn't negotiate. She didn't ask why. She took the contract. She took the silver. And she went to work. Now here's what we need to understand about psychological warfare, because that's exactly what this is. Delilah doesn't attack Samson. She doesn't accuse him. She doesn't threaten him. She asks, "Tell me where your great strength comes from, and how you could be tied up and subdued." That's a strange question to ask a man you love. But emotional manipulation doesn't announce itself. It arrives wearing the face of intimacy. The question sounds like curiosity. It feels like closeness. And Samson, this man who had never lost a fight in his life, smiled and told her a lie. Lie number 1. If anyone ties me with 7 fresh bowstrings, I'll become as weak as any other man. While he slept, Delilah had him bound. Philistine soldiers waited in the next room. She shouted the signal. "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He snapped the bowstrings like threads of yarn on a flame. They never even reached him. But here's what Samson missed in that moment. She set him up. She had soldiers waiting. She shouted the signal. She watched to see if the binding held. This was not a woman testing his strength out of affection. This was an active attempt on his life. And Samson stayed. Lie number 2. If anyone ties me with new ropes, I'll become as weak as any other man. Same pattern. Soldiers in the other room. Signal. Samson snaps the ropes. He walked away, laughing. Lie number 3. Weave the 7 braids of my hair into the fabric on your loom. This time, he's letting her touch his hair. Think about that. The one thing he'd protected his entire life. And now he's allowing a woman who has already tried to turn him over twice to touch it. He's not just staying in the room anymore. He's moving toward the edge. Same pattern. Same soldiers. Same signal. He pulls the loom out of the ground and walks off with it, still attached to his head. 3 attempts on his life. In the same room, in the same bed, by the same woman. And he came back every single time. This is the part of the story nobody wants to talk about, because it's too familiar. We all know what it's like to stay somewhere we shouldn't, to keep going back to the thing that keeps costing us. Samson isn't stupid. He's addicted. To her, to the feeling, to the version of himself he thinks he is when he's with her. The enemy doesn't need to overpower you. Sometimes it just needs to stay comfortable enough that you keep showing up. Then came the fourth time. Judges 16:16 uses specific language. She pressed him daily with her words and urged him until his soul was vexed to death. Vexed to death. That's not frustration. That's not annoyance. That's the slow death of a man who has run out of fight. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten. She asked, day after day after day, how can you say you love me when you won't trust me with this? That sentence is the most dangerous weapon in the entire book of Judges. Not Goliath's spear, not Sisera's 900 iron chariots, not the armies of the Philistines. How can you say you love me? And Samson, this man with the strength of 1,000 soldiers, broke. No razor has ever touched my head. I have been a Nazirite, set apart to God since before I was born. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me. I would become as weak as any other man. There it is. Not a lie this time. The truth. The only thing he'd been protecting his entire life. Given freely, in the dark, in the wrong bed, to the wrong woman. And Delilah, she knew. Judges says she realized he had told her everything. She didn't celebrate. She didn't soften. She sent for the Philistine lords. Come back one more time. He has told me everything. She let him fall asleep on her lap. While he slept, they shaved his head. 7 braids. Gone. The room was quiet. No fanfare. No ceremony. The covenant sealed before his first breath. Broken in a moment of sleep. Then came the signal. Samson, the Philistines are upon you. And he woke up. Judges 16:20 contains one of the most heartbreaking sentences in all of Scripture. He awoke from his sleep and thought, I'll go out as before and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. He didn't know. He still thought the power was his. He still thought he could just stand up and fight. He'd done it 3 times in this very room. But the covenant was broken. The Spirit of the Lord had departed, and he had no idea. They seized him. The men he had terrorized for 20 years finally had him, and they did what they'd always wanted to do. They gouged out his eyes. Not a quick death. Not mercy. They wanted him to live. They wanted him to walk around in the dark of what he had lost. They bound him with bronze shackles. Took him down to Gaza, the same city where he'd carried their gates up a mountain. Now he was walking those same streets in chains, and they put him to work in the prison, grinding grain, the strongest man who ever lived, a mill donkey. There's a detail most people skip past, one sentence buried in the middle of the captivity narrative. But the hair on his head began to grow back after it had been shaved. That's it. That's all it says. No angel appeared. No voice from heaven. Just the hair grew back. But that one detail changes everything, because it means God wasn't done. In the darkness of a Philistine prison, in the humiliation of a blind man grinding grain, the covenant was quietly being restored. Samson couldn't see it. He couldn't feel it. He didn't hear a word, but something was growing back in the dark. That hits different when you're in your own version of the millstone, when the thing you wasted is being quietly rebuilt without your permission. Not because you earned it, but because the calling was never yours to forfeit in the first place. The Philistines threw a party, a massive sacrifice to their god Dagon, the one they credited with delivering Samson into their hands. Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste to our land, and multiplied our slain, 3,000 people. 5 lords, the nobles, the crowds, and somewhere in the middle of the celebration, someone had an idea. Bring Samson out. Let him perform for us. There's a cruelty in that request that deserves to sit for a moment. These are the people who lived in fear of his name for 20 years. And now they wanted to watch him perform. They brought him out of the prison. A young servant led him by the hand. The man who once carried city gates up a mountain, being led by a child. The crowd roared when they saw him, and Samson, blind, chained, humiliated before 3,000 people, made one quiet request. Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple. And then, the most raw prayer in the entire Bible. Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just one more time, and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes. That's not a triumphant prayer. That's not a warrior's prayer. That's a broken man in the dark, asking for one more moment, not to be restored, not to have his sight back, not a second chance at the life he wasted, just one more moment of what he used to be. And the God who doesn't forget covenants heard him. Samson braced himself, one hand on each pillar. Let me die with the Philistines. And he pushed. The roof came down on the lords and all the people in it. 3,000 people. One moment. Judges 16:30 closes the chapter with a sentence that has echoed for 3,000 years. Thus the dead he killed at his death were more than those he had killed during his life. Let that land. His greatest act was his last act. The man who wasted 20 years of supernatural calling, who spent his anointing on personal vendettas and the wrong women, who gave up the only secret that mattered in the lap of someone who never loved him, in one final act of surrender, did more for the people of God than in all his previous years combined. His brothers came and took his body, buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol, in the tomb of his father Manoah. That's how it ends. Not with a parade, not with a monument, a tomb, a family, a story that outlived him. Here's what Samson's life actually teaches, not the Sunday school version, the grown-up version. A wasted calling isn't a canceled calling. God didn't show up in the temple because Samson finally had it together. He showed up because the covenant was still alive, because the hair had grown back in the dark, because the God who called him before his first breath was still there at his last. Whatever you've wasted, whatever covenant you've broken through comfort, through compromise, through the wrong person in the wrong room, the hair grows back. The question is whether you'll be in position to use it when it does. Samson was, at the end. That's enough. If this Samson series hit you, I want to hear from you. What story should we take on next? Drop your pick in the comments. Same depth, same honesty. No Sunday school version. See you in the next one.